Today I'm going to be going over some massage suggestions for my spaghetti wrist injury, kind of in consultation with my timeline, which I'm going to show right here. I laid my timeline out. The orange section is the first 2 weeks. So you can see cast was off, and then it started to progress weeks 2 through 10 down here. Tissue was compliant, and then everything was getting harder. And where I'm getting at is it seemed to get stiffer, especially towards week 10. I started this in earnest week 5. The massage certified hand therapist did some massage, but it wasn't something they were dying to do a large volume of. I kind of picked up and took it in my own direction, and then it seemed at week 10 the type of my hand configuration, the tissue was like a set stiffness, and then I continue using massage weeks 10 through 20. I had difficulty because the mechanism of injury for me was circular saw blade. I think my structures were all shortened a little bit. I had to lengthen them, so I had to do a ton of work. Massage was part of that through 20, and then I was able to get my hand in the flat down configuration. Before then, I would try to extend my fingers and they would stop, but at some point I was able to massage and stretch them to the point where I could lay them flat. There was tension on them. I assume that was the structures kind of pulling down on the bones, but I could get them flat and they would stay flat. And then that subsided over time, and it just took a while. But be aware, massage is probably going to start somewhere for a patient when their tissue can accept a massage. So it wouldn't be like a wound that was loose, or it would have to be something you were cleared to massage gently. And then realized that I incorporated it more as I tried to achieve these different configurations of my hand. The hand stretched, stable, swollen, palm up, without aid. That's what I was going for. And then I use massage, even continuing on to this day. I don't use as much. I don't have a massage therapist helping me, but I would recommend, if you can afford one, or if you can get a routine where you get a little help, it would be great. If you have a family member that would do it, awesome. But again, massage, I would say I started at week 5 through 10, definitely was a very integral part of my routine, and it stayed a part of my routine. And this is covered in another video of mine, the Spaghetti Wrist Pamphlet. To start, I'll start trying to speed this up here. Massage suggestions, spaghetti wrist. You should always consult a therapist to determine if any of this is appropriate for you as a patient. My goal was to condition my hand to the greatest extent possible. As I said before, I had to wait until a wound closed to approach it. For me, about 5 weeks. Before that time, you could do some massage at unrelated areas. But as I approached, there was a 50-cent piece size taken out of here. Circular saw went across, went all the way across. These were incisions. Obviously, that stuff had to close and kind of be cleared for it. And then I kind of took it up and ran with that ball. I targeted scar tissue and then proceeded to do a more gentle massage. And as he kind of got cleared, like this incision on this side, you might work it over here, less here, and then I had this 50-cent piece I got on it. I did, my thumb was pinned on, as in shown, or my hand was pinned on by my thumb, I don't know. There's 2 yellow protectors, there's spring steel running through. I was unable to massage this part here, and I will regret not massaging it more. So just because it's immobilized doesn't mean that if you're cleared by a therapist you can't massage it. Massage almost certainly helps provide stimulation, but I think it would be a wise thing for a patient to realize that your brain, the fundamental concepts behind neuroplasticity, remapping, is you've severed the wires going back to your brain, and you're probably going to have some difficulty understanding, or your brain's going to have some difficulty understanding what stimulation means. So for myself, I could have my wife rub my finger here and I might get a sensation that somebody's touching me in these 2 points, and it has subsided over time. I can reliably identify the fingers. I can reliably identify where they're touched. Hot and cold is the same thing. Generally, over a particular threshold, warmth is perceived by my brain as pain, or was perceived by it. I did extensive work to retrain, but just be aware that massage may have some components of this where it could be distressing if you weren't aware that, hey, it's brain training. It is relearning what different pressure or temperatures on your skin mean, and it may take quite a while, months and months, before it starts to go back to something that is recognizable and pleasant, or at least kind of neutral. Massage included trying to access the area between my fingers. Large muscles, I believe, are responsible for grasping, but the smaller muscles, kind of between your fingers, and the intrinsic muscles, where they branch off, are responsible for direction of your fingers, and I tried to keep them from getting too stiff. So I would do some massage on the insides. I would try to do some massage kind of between the bones. And here, I'll show you a little bit of what I did, and then hopefully somebody smarter than me can find better, easier techniques for doing this. I used blanching as a guide to work on tight areas, and by blanching I mean when you have immobilized structures. I'm kind of doing this intentionally. So I'm putting a little tension. You can kind of see where the skin tone goes to a blanched or a whiter. It's because there's an immobilized structure, I believe, in there. I had this in multiple points in my hand, where if I pulled it backwards, I would see a little spot of blanching, and I would do massage on that spot. So identify the spot, see a little bit of a, and then blanch it, and the structures have stretched out for me, and I can, I don't have the blanching, it subsided. Again, speak with a therapist before you try it. Use of a heated blanket sheet to hold my hand flat and provide rest for a period of time after massage. I'll show that in a second. Massage was a part of a daily routine for me. Massage, stretching, and then warmth. And then increasingly, massage, stretching, therapy exercises, and warmth. Anyone can go into therapy, they're going to get pages and pages of exercises to run through. And you can just massage, stretch your hand, run through your therapy exercises or your strengthening exercises, and then use a little warm blanket or to give yourself a break. And then, as always, if you are going through this, I am sorry and I wish you the best. I'm going to just show the damaged hand. The goal for me was to get as much out of my hand as possible. Certified hand therapists would do a little bit of massage to start my appointment. You could always tell they weren't dying to do a tremendous amount of it. And I provided a tremendous amount of it. I have fairly big, strong hands. Somebody who is not as big and strong might want to try to recruit some help from people around. Just be aware that it's going to be uncomfortable, and if you ask somebody to help you massage your hand, you have an obligation not to take it out on them if it's uncomfortable. And I think if you had a spouse, you could have too much of this problem be taken on by somebody that you're going to need to take over other aspects of this. So maximizing the amount of massage you provide yourself, realizing that it's not magic, it doesn't fix anything, but it helps things progress. And then if you could get a professional involved, if you can afford it, or if your insurance would pay for it, would probably be ideal. I again waited for these areas to close, so the targeted massage, and perhaps I will, do a little bit. I use the Anker's multi-purpose therapeutic salve. It does not seem to leave your hand as greasy. It has a lot of menthol in it, which, if you study the literature, menthol, in addition to a number of, like turmeric, is something you can take as a natural remedy, or at least helping disrupt pain signals. But targeted, I'm going to take and just put a little Unkers on. I might take and stretch my hand out a little bit, and I'm magging, but it is actually tight, and just take my knuckles and start in a circular manner, work on that now. Initially this was so I would have to avoid, and if I was shaking it too much, I just have to stay away from it. But I could still go over my fingers with my knuckles and work them. And then you can flip your hand over and what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting my knuckles on a structure. And this finger initially would be like this, so I had to do a tremendous amount of massage here, and then stretching. It never wanted to lay perfect. It lays flat now, but it did not want to lay flat for the longest time, and I might have to take this one over and put some massage on the back side, so there may not be uniform. You're not, or a surface that you're comfortable. I put a towel on a book, so I'd have a soft towel over a book, so my hand wasn't on a hard surface initially. Start doing this, and you can leave the towel flop over, and then bring it over and wipe excess lubricant off of your hand. So again, damage, just start here, and then once I got to it, and of course all these are very delicate structures, so you're going to start not wanting to physically move an area that shouldn't be moved, so do it with clearance. But realize that you may approach a real tight scar tissue, focus on that scar tissue, bend it whichever way you can, and do the whole hand and proceed from there. As in regards to stimulation, I don't know where my ulnar nerve was cut. It was cut, median nerve was in here somewhere. You would expect nerve healing to progress outward from here, so up here absolutely no stimulation, and your intrinsic muscles are not innervated initially, so they're loose, and over time mine were shrinking. One benefit of this was blood flow. I was trying to encourage blood flow in my hand, always aware that I had to elevate my hand above heart level for a return of fluid through the tissue. So you're not going to have your hand on your lap for hours and hours. This is an exercise. And then you go back to whatever configuration has been recommended. Elevation was recommended for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'd go back to an elevated position, but I would work on it. And what I'm trying to show here is the promotion of blood flow through the tissue and whole as a whole when you do massage. You kind of work the whole hand. To access the areas between the fingers, and before I show that, I'll show something I was using that was an aid. That might be an aid for somebody. This is actually a wine cork. If you look, it has a rubber tip that's pretty loose, and then it has a circle hole and they're more rigid. And the nice thing about it is you can kind of, I was locking it in that finger, but I can just grab it with these things here, use the rubber cork tip to massage tissue that I don't want to get more rigidly, and then I can spin it around, stick, let's say, this finger in here, and then use the rigid area to get other areas of my hand. Now, locking your hands out until you have it's more passive, so I'll show it on the, meaning you may have to take and block 3 fingers together, whatever you got to do. What you're trying to do is get some massage on the inside of the fingers, and you can do it down here. You can kind of drive it in a little bit if you want. There's like a little bit of a twisting motion, because I found a place kind of a bit of a grind. Try to release areas in my hand that are tight. I still have some tightness with work. I can get better motion on my forefinger. I'm always getting better motion out of my thumb as I'm bringing it down. But it requires work, and massage would help, and I probably should redouble my efforts. So I'm starting to reintegrate, and I'm 4 years into this, more massage into my routine. But again, be careful around it. This would be something that you could just verify would be right for you, but the rubber tip may be something that makes it more bearable for you as you start. And again, you're avoiding any sort of wound, and you want to make sure you're cleared for massage by a therapist, saying that you're not going to damage the structure, but maybe have them give an idea of the intensity and the extent of the massage that they want you to do. One exercise is kind of more advanced. You can kind of roll your fingers a little bit with your forearm. You know, they're on the surface. I'm just rolling my fingers passively, kind of working the structure. I'm not trying to mentally do it. All I'm trying to do is get my fingers to a little bit looser. And the goal, I'm sure from a patient, is a subtle hand, and the looser your fingers are and the more supple your fingers are, the closer you're going to be to that supple hand that everybody would love to have, that forms around objects, but shouldn't be expected, in that these injuries require a lot of work. You deal with the new reality. Warmth-wise, see, this is actually the blanket I was sent home from the hospital in. It is just a folded-up thin sheet, but I like it. So I'm on the table doing my massage to the best of my ability. I feel like I've kind of done a complete massage. I might even say I have a tight area here. I'm going to work that area for a while, whatever works best for me. It's tight in here, it's tight in here. I had on my thumb, the circular saw blade came out here. Well, this area was left untouched by the therapist for months. It really was not something that they address at the university. I started to address it with a physical therapist, so it required a lot of remediation to get any movement in the structures at the base of my thumb, and massage was part of that remediation. But you've done a complete massage to your whole hand. Flip it over, complete massage. If massage is the last thing you're doing, or let's say you want to take a break, throw it on. You could warm a towel. You could use warming pads. You could use whatever else. Put a warm pad. But it's got to be cleared by your therapist. One suggestion I would have is if you're bringing it in, perhaps employ a pulse oximeter. Put on your finger so you can see that you have good perfusion, the amount of oxygen that your blood is carrying. And that's the way they do it in EMS. So it clips on your finger. Pulse ox of 94, 90, whatever your number that would be acceptable. That way you know you're not inhibiting blood flow to your hand. But put it in there, warm it whatever way you want. I would say having a couple warm, thick towels might do it. Whatever heating method they want to show you, I'm not going to show you what I used. Because I want a patient to come up with whatever heating method works for them, and just be aware that you don't want to damage a compromised hand. So you got to be very careful when applying the heat. But you've got your massage done. Well, if you throw it down, figure out how you're going to heat it with the leg. Do that here. You can even put your other hand on top to just hold it, and then for a 20-minute rest stroke or whatever else, however long you want to do it, just let the configuration of the hand set a little bit. I would do this as like a break. I would do this in conjunction with TENS was another break for me. And this would be a very deliberate, I'm sitting here doing this, and I could feel my hand tightening, and I might let it sit for 10 minutes and then go into my passive initially, and then more active exercises with my fingers, whatever was shown to me by the therapist. And then I may use TENS as a break from that. But again, massage, and get it in a position, put it down, always monitor my hand for blood flow because I had no sensation to it. I'd check it regularly if it made me worry at all. And I might hold my hand on top of it like this for a rest. So, again, I hope some of these tips will help somebody somewhere. Do not overdo it. Consult a therapist before you try anything. Be aware of the point to which your hand is healed. Is it appropriate to massage tendons? You do not want to move a structure that could be damaged by any sort of movement. And I wish you the best.